Welcome back. Our next session is about the Nordic Impact Partnership Program, a joint collaboration between UNDP in Singapore, DBS Bank, Citi and Copenhagen FinTech. In 2021, a few selected companies will join the program targeted at the Asian market. These companies were just announced, and we'll hear from Earthbank, Agroclimatica, Matter and Normative today. You're going to hear some more from each and every one of them, and they're super exciting startups, so I hope you'll enjoy this demo. This will be moderated by my great colleague, Oliver.
Great, thank you, Sarah. I'll take it from here. Great, welcome everybody, welcome back. So as Sarah said, today is a session where we're going to hear from 4 fintech companies that is part of this new program. But before I get into that, I thought I would kind of wind back and set the scene a little bit about why are we here. So a year ago, we sat on the stage in Singapore and we had with us around 60 people here from Denmark in a delegation at the Singapore FinTech Festival. And in one of these panel debates we had together with Citi and the UNDP, a new idea was kind of created. So someone mentioned we should, make a program out of bringing the great companies you brought with you on this delegation and to facilitate partnerships. So since then, the past year, we've been working with our partners, being UNDP, Citi and DBS, on finding a lean concept on how do we help fintech companies in the Nordics that have a really strong sustainability profile scale into the ASEAN market, and how do they do that leveraging the partnerships with the partners of the program. So since then, we looked at all fintech companies in the Nordics, which is about 1,000. We narrowed it down to the ones that fit into the problem areas, which was around 250. We did serial screening interviews where we looked at, okay, how do these companies fit with these 2 global financial institutions and the UNDP and the values of this program. We've gone through interview rounds, we've gone through voting schemes, and we're wanting to make sure that these companies have the best ability to be supported by this program and a great fit. Now we've narrowed down from these 1,000 companies to 4 companies who's been invited to participate in this very targeted program. And for us, the success of this program is if these 4 companies get an accelerated journey where they can enter the region and make an impact by driving the sustainable agenda for the financial services industry. So that was a little bit about the program, a little bit about the partners and what brought us here today. Today is the first time that we announced that these are the 4 companies with me. So you're going to hear, needless to say, 4 great company presentations that I'm really excited to present to all of you today. The format is that each company is going to do around an 8-minute presentation about what is it that they do and why are they entering this region. So enough talking from me. I'm going to hand over the word to the first company, which is from Sweden. Kristian in Normative, please take over the screen and take it from here.
All right, thanks a lot and great to be here. I'm calling in here from Sweden in a cabin in the middle of the woods, so quite far from Singapore, and I'm really excited to be here and to present to you Normative and what we do. So first of all, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So I usually start with this graph because this really encapsulates the problem. For the past century, we have seen exponential financial growth, but in order to avoid a global climate catastrophe, we need exponential climate action. According to the Paris Agreement, it means we need to slash our carbon emissions in half every single decade. It's non-optional and non-negotiable. But in order to mitigate emissions, we first need to be able to monitor them. And there exists around 400 million companies on the planet, but only 6,000 to 7,000 companies calculate and monitor their greenhouse gas emissions at all. But if you look under the hood at those 6,000 companies, actually less than 100 companies fully report on all of their carbon emissions. And what they typically miss is the emissions in the supply chain, which accounts for 70 to 90% of all emissions. So that type of discrepancy would not be allowed in normal accounting. So it shouldn't be allowed in sustainability accounting and monitoring either. And things are actually changing all across the world. Legislations are cropping up, making it mandatory for companies to report on sustainability and track their carbon emissions. So in the light of all of these new legislations and the fact that this needs to happen, the world needs a new norm and infrastructure for how to measure performance. And that's where normative enters the picture. So we asked ourselves, what if the world's economic activities could be assessed based on sustainability? How could we build such a world and what would it look like? So, I mean, in order to build such a world, we first need to figure out where are all economic activities logged? They're logged in the banks, they're logged in the big ERP systems, they're logged inside of accounting software. So if we want to bring sustainability on top of that, that's where we started. So how our platform works is that we actually take that type of data that already exists inside of bank transactions and invoices and ERP systems. We upload them into normative, ask our users to map a couple of columns, and just by looking at the invoices that they already have in those transactions, we give them an immediate overview of their greenhouse gas emissions. What categories cause the most greenhouse gas emissions? Everything from travel, raw materials, or electricity. We can see what suppliers cause the most emissions. And we can do so in all categories demanded by the Greenhouse Gas Protocol standard. But we go beyond that and also measure other sustainability indicators such as water, land use, acidification, and effects on biodiversity, to only mention a few metrics. And in order for our clients to become better, they can go into our accounting screen and then they will see the biggest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions from their activities. So here, for instance, is an energy company that contributed 20% of the emissions. So then you can go in and actually change and log a change in your activities. So for instance, you can change from non-renewable to renewable electricity and upload proof of that change. And right now, over 100 large enterprises are using normative software to account for their sustainability. And our software has been around for 3 years, and we have 20 employees working for it. And recently, we launched an initiative together with the United Nations called Sme Climate Hub, where we want to bring carbon mitigation to the world's 400 million small and medium-sized enterprises. So this is a really ambitious push together with the UN. So as a part of this program, and we're really excited to be a part of it, we want to engage SMEs and all types of companies from the ASEAN region in climate reporting. And we think this region is particularly interesting because it's one of the fastest growing regions, and there is high demands from investors to perform and measure sustainability data. In fact, 50% of PE deals were backed by those types of demands. But it's still a region that has a lot of work to do in order to fully track and monitor their greenhouse gas emissions and sustainability. So there's a huge opportunity to take the leadership torch if any investors and companies are here in the audience. So feel free to contact me and engage. Here's my email, and super excited to be a part of the program. So thanks a lot for listening.
Great, thank you for that, Kristian. I actually have some questions for you, just to follow up on that. Of course, this is a question which might be a little bit unfair to ask at this point, because it's what we're going to work on throughout the program as well. But what do you expect at this point would be different from operating normative in a Nordic setting versus doing it, for example, in Singapore or in one of the nearby markets, like in Bangkok, for example? What will be the differences for your business and your business model and the way that you operate that you need to kind of adapt?
I think it's how educated the market is. So, I mean, for instance, in Singapore, it's quite well educated, but not all over the ASEAN region. I mean, not everyone knows of greenhouse gases and the importance to mitigate them, or the Paris Agreement. But I mean, they will find out in the next few years because of the legislative push and push from investors. So I think that will be the main kind of obstacle. But that makes it even more fun, you know, to kind of spreading the importance of this in segments that might not actually know about it, because that's where you can make the largest and biggest difference.
Great, Kristian. Thanks. And of course, there's many use cases together with our partners that we're going to explore. You know, anything from if a financial institution can all of a sudden understand the sustainability profile in a better way of the SMEs, they could of course offer beneficial financial products such as beneficial loan terms if a company kind of comply to a sustainability standard. So there's a lot of different use cases we're going to be exploring through the program together with our partners. So thank you again, Kristian, for joining, and we look forward to spending the next couple months together on this program. Next up, I'm going to hand over the word to the second Swedish FinTech company in this program, which is Tom Duncan from Earthbanc. Welcome, Tom, and feel free to take over the screen.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll start sharing my screen, and okay. Okay, I'm also in a cabin in the woods in an off-grid situation, and so I hope my satellite internet to do this presentation. Okay, Earthbanc, we use satellite imagery and machine learning to monitor tree and soil carbon, bringing trust and transparency to carbon markets. We also deliver enhanced reporting services to support the financial and corporate sector in this new era of nature and climate-related financial risk disclosures. Earthbanc is venture-backed by the European Space Agency, the business incubator, enabling access to European Space Agency high-resolution imagery, the patent and the IP portfolio, which is also part of what's backing us. The European Institute of Innovation and Technology supports Earthbanc's decision metrics for climate finance, and our goal is to ensure that the Green New Deal finance is data-driven and effective for the climate across Europe and the Nordics. So yeah, that's part of our mission, and that's what we're doing. Hopefully you're able to see my screen and it's showing everything okay. Oliver, can you confirm?
Yes, I can see your screen. We're having some video issues from the cabin, but I think I can see a slide now, yeah.
Great, okay. So yeah, so hopefully everything will come through smooth. But yeah, so moving right along, hopefully the slides will also progress. Okay, so new laws are ushering in a new era of environmental risk disclosure, and most banks are exposed. There is the race to net zero emissions, but carbon markets do not currently have quality control. There's the EU Action on Sustainable Finance, and there's for people who are accessing wholesale finance from Europe, in Asia, there are disclosure regulations, and there will be impacts on cost of capital and public relations if this is not dealt with. So what we're here to do is to try to help, and we focus on task force on climate and nature-related financial risk disclosure, and to support new products coming to market. Just checking if you can still see what I'm presenting. Is it stuck on the same slide or not?
It is stuck on the same slide, but we can hear you fine. So maybe you can just talk us through it in case you can't get the slides working.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I think it's yeah. We can at least we can try again to. If getting back on track, nature and climate related financial risk disclosure are increasingly important as a brand reputation management and compliance in the finance markets. And so what we're doing is we're helping banks and financial institutions, funds, to monitor their loan books, whether it's exposure to oil and gas, whether it's exposure to deforestation in the supply chain through their loan book, or whether it's buying carbon offsets, which need to have quality control, need to be monitored and tracked. Earthbank is a one-stop shop for all of the carbon compliance and nature and climate financial risk disclosure requirements. Hopefully these slides are viewable, but if not, our carbon monitoring and reporting helps you stay ahead of the carbon curve. We help monitor and report on the nature-related financial risk disclosure. Secondly, we monitor carbon credits that you are looking at buying or have bought to ensure that, in fact, the carbon is still there in the forest. And we use our deep learning artificial intelligence to monitor and track and calculate exactly down to the very last ton of carbon that is in a forest, in the trees, and also in the soil. We then provide this report back to the offset buyer, and we also provide that information to carbon markets. So banks and large corporates in the ASEAN region who are looking to do carbon offsetting to meet their net zero targets, we can help you by monitoring and tracking the carbon offsets that you have bought or will look to buy. Thirdly, we also help develop carbon offsets because we are right at the cutting edge of carbon verification and also reporting and measurement. We can help create new carbon assets for funds, asset managers, banks to move further up the value chain, so to speak. There are significant opportunities there for the adventurous. So using our satellite imagery and proprietary deep learning models, we've achieved a 99% accuracy, up to 99% accuracy for monitoring tree and soil carbon with no expensive ground truthing. Now, in the past, for carbon projects, you had to have a minimum size of 2,000 hectares or 8,000 acres. With our deep learning and AI, we've managed to reduce the size down to just 200 square meters, which is an 80,000-fold increase in efficiency. And what that allows us to do is to really get into micro projects so we can support smallholders. So if there's a bank, a fund, a corporate who would like to support the smallholders on the ground to sell their carbon, we can in fact support the entire supply chain, all the way up from the small rice grower growing a rice paddy in Thailand or Vietnam or Malay, and right through down to the end of the supply chain to the buyer, the commodity buyers, and the bank who's financing such activities. So we can do not just offsetting, but intra-setting, which is it's offsetting inside of supply chains. So our Earthbank verification reporting helps you efficiently identify the climate and nature-related financial risk disclosure on your loan books, and then we help select and monitor the carbon offsets that best meet your needs and also your customers' needs. For example, we've been selling carbon offsets to buyers in Europe, USA, Australia, yes, also Singapore, and we have a team of 20 people. Yeah, we're ready and open for business in ASEAN. We have some full-time team members already based in Singapore who used to work for Maersk Sustainability, leading their drive towards sustainability. So we've got some really deep connectivity in the region. And just moving ahead, we do provide an API service as well as a software development kit to integrate offset into banking products. So if a bank or financial institution would like to help their customers offset, we do provide the full service of sourcing our verified carbon credits and putting them into a software development kit that can appear inside of your own customers' journey and everyday banking experience so that they can see the positive impact they're having on the world. And particularly in the ASEAN region, making it very relevant. Some of our customers are large multilateral development banks like the African Development Bank. We're doing a lot of work in the drylands, and we have large impact funds and commodity buyers as our customers. So I think we've got there to the end of our 8 minutes just about. We were recently featured in Asian Development Bank's publication blockchain and tokenized security, the potential for green finance. So we are acknowledged in Asia as being having the top level software that Asian Development Bank is recommending. So yeah, I'll just end up there, and there we go.
Great, Tom. Thank you. It's not easy to stream from a cabin always, and not easy to get the slides working. I think by now, this long into the pandemic, we're used to these issues, so no problem. Thanks for sharing the story.
Yeah.
And Earthbank, it's interesting to hear. I think it's the first startup we do in a program that is also in space. So that's a first for us. It's really cool that how you can use satellite imagery and some smart piece of software to say, okay, how many trees are there really? How much are they growing? You know, how much does that impact the carbon offsets? So when people buy carbon offsets, there's no greenwashing, but you can actually see the results of it, making sure and bringing some legitimacy to it. And earlier today, I sat here and I had a panel with one of the partners, DBS, who mentioned this issue as well, that a big part of it now is really how do we articulate the impact and how do we kind of verify the impact and the data service. So I think it's really great to have you part of this program as well to help verify these things and do the carbon compliance and the other things that you mentioned. So thank you very much, Tom. I look forward to working more together the coming months once we return from our cabins all over. All right, great.
Thank you, Oliver.
Thanks. Next, we're going to go to another company called Agua Climatica from Denmark. I believe we have Esther on the line. Feel free to take over the screen, share your video, and unmute yourself.
Awesome. Do you see my screen?
We do see the screen. I don't think I can see your face yet.
Yeah, I have to really apologize. Teams does not cooperate with my Mac computer.
Okay.
So it doesn't support the video. I'm very sorry. But I'm really happy to see you guys and to be here and to be able to present to you a little bit about us. So thank you for the opportunity. My name is Esther, and I lead the business part of Agroclimatica. Our manager, Lars, is at the moment in a plane, one of the few lucky ones, so he will not be joining us. So, about us, Agroclimatica, we call ourselves risks and opportunities, because when people think and talk about climate change, many see the risks and the issues, but few stop and reckon the opportunities, particularly for the financial sector and for financial inclusion.
I have to interrupt. We can't see your slides. We can only see an overview of slides, but no full screen mode. So maybe you can try put it in full screen.
Say it. I'll stop and try again. Wait. What about now? Oliver?
Again, not full screen, but you can click through the slide one and one in this mode. I think we're kind of
very interesting. What do you see?
I see a slide, and then I see an overview of the other slides coming up, but not in a full screen mode.
What do you say if I send you the slides?
No, it doesn't work at this point. You'll just have to talk through it. This would have to be tested beforehand, unfortunately. So you can't send the slides at this point. But please feel free to just.
Do you see the content of the slide?
Yeah, we can see the content of the slide.
Okay, wonderful. So I was saying that we're in a world that's challenged by COVID-19 and financial inclusion. Okay, so I think this doesn't work. I'll just leave it like that. So financial institutions are having a great challenge to quantify the risk exposure in their own portfolios and to broaden their products in the agricultural sector. Furthermore, agriculture nonetheless remains an ever-growing indispensable industry, because even if we have crisis, we continue eating, right? And financial institutions need to adapt to this and reinvent themselves to emerge stronger out of the crisis. And we believe this can happen through innovation and technology. in terms of agriculture, that climate smart agriculture is the way to go. Maybe if I make this a bit bigger for you guys, at least like that. Okay, so financial institutions measure different types of risk, like credit, financial markets, liquidity, operational risk, etc. But when we talk about agriculture, agroclimatic risk has a core value to it, because agriculture is mainly dictated by climate. So what we do, the opportunities we help to find, is to quantify the risk exposure of an individual credit and to define allocation policies adaptable to this risk exposure, to assess the exposure of the loan portfolio, and with objective scientific variables help design climate resilient financial products, as well as to eliminate subjectivity and reduce operative costs, because we're introducing science-based and data-based information to the process of decision making. So at the end, the problem is the lack of risk transparency in the agricultural financing. And the solution that we're hereby presenting is Agroclimatica, which is a bioclimatic data platform, which analyzes different data from climate, soil, crop, livestock, productivity, and good agricultural practices. And with all this information provides us a risk score for a specific territory, meaning a specific farm, a specific activity, so the crop that I'm going to plant in my farm or the cattle that I'll have, for a specific type of producer, so adapted to my level of technification and experience, and a specific period of time. So this can be, for example, for short-term crop for 3 months, or even for a long-term investment for 20 years. Our platform is calibrated until 2050 and doesn't only analyze historical data as many models do, but we use 21 international climatic models like NASA, NOAA, IPCC from United Nations, as well as satellite data to enrich the projections until 2050. So at the end, this is the risk score. I know you see it very small, but it's compounded from risk from climate, soil, and productive activity, and gives you an overview for every 10 days of your credit to see how certain variables will perform. For example, rainfall, how much rain will you get in the 3 months or in the 2 years of credit? So this information is valuable for the financial institution to assess the credit, but also very valuable for the farmer if you want to put something in his hand to help him manage his farm. So it provides transparency, quantifying the risk in the agricultural portfolio. It increases the loan portfolio and decreases operational costs, as well as the environmental costs of lending because of the CO2 footprint emission, which we will come to in a minute. So our basic product is the risk score, and additional to that, we have other products such as the Climate Smart Crop Identifier, which gives us, when we have a very high risk for a specific crop, gives us recommendations for other crops or crop varieties that can be more resilient. We have harvest predictors, a CO2 calculator to measure the CO2 emissions per credit, so you can have an assessment in your loan portfolio and create mitigation measures. Analysis module, social performance management indicators, so you can report on financial inclusion on your efforts. A technical assistant tool if you want to help furthermore to your clients, to your end clients, and different products that can be either white label or B2C opportunities to support your end customers. At the moment, we're currently operating in 7 different countries in Central and South America, as well as in Kenya. And we are very much looking forward into expanding into Asian region. Why Asian? Because of the core of agriculture in the local economies, which also have large populations, meaning a large potential market. Very high levels of non-bankability, so financial inclusion is a big need, and a big need for solutions such as these. And potential customers and financial institutions in the area are looking for solutions. We have had very positive reactions, so we're very keen into going there as we are very SDG oriented and focused. At the end, what everyone asks is, does this work? You know, a lot of companies have very fancy tools and products, but does this work? So from the countries where we're operating now, and the people and institutions using Agroclimatica, 91% of the professionals feel better informed and more confident to make decisions in agricultural financing. 85% is even willing to lend more to the agricultural sector. And from the outputs, from the accuracy of the outputs of our platform, we have a 93% average. So I'm coming to the end of my 8 minutes. Agroclimatica offers real impact. We're really looking forward into promoting and supporting efforts towards financial inclusion in the Asian region, and very much looking forward to this project. So I think I can stop sharing now.
All right.
I hope you see something.
Yeah, we saw your slides. It was very, very nice walkthrough. Thank you, Esther. I appreciate the Make Do solution we're doing here. Thank you again for telling the story and for joining us today. Of course, the AV skills was not a requirement for this program. Luckily, it was more about your business and the potential all the partners could see in it. But I think it's really cool what Agroclimatica is doing. Of course, we've heard your story several times, but how you're able to just say, okay, we can use data, we can use this smart platform to both help financial institutions to give out more loans, do it in a more green way, and support their customers in a new way that today would be too risky. And of course, also on the other side of the coin is the farmers themselves. All of a sudden, they unlock new access to capital and smarter tools to kind of run their business. So I think it's a really nice value proposition, and we look forward to working with you throughout this program. Maybe just a quick question before I let you go, Esther. Could you say a few words about what data do you put into your model? You mentioned a few different things, but what would you say is the main? Is it public data? Is it private data? What are the data sources for getting your kind of risk score?
That is difficult to say in a few words, but I will try. So in terms of climate, because we have all the different 5 columns of data, in terms of climate, we work with historical data that's locally acquired, so per country. That's from the national institutes, and then the projections that we do is with international data from the international climate models such as NASA or NOAA or IPCC. So that's climate. In soil, we work with also national soil maps plus laboratory samples from soil labs local, plus satellite imagery to verify variables such as the suitability of the soil, the drainage, fertility, slope, etc. And then the rest, what is crops, livestock, and good agricultural practices, is all academic literature that's also enriched by local consultancies and adapted to local customs and language. Maybe also to complement what you were saying, we believe that the best business is a win-win business, you know. Not only the financial institution wins because they get their money back and they can increase their loan portfolio and actually have successful rates and not non-performing loans, but also the farmers, you know, if they get more access to finance, they can also grow and develop. So it is a win-win opportunity, as you said.
Great, thank you for that. And I'm glad you had an element of space in it for the satellites as well. We can keep going with that theme. Thank you, Esther. Look forward to working together. So we have the final startup who's going to present as part of this program from Matter. So I'm just going to hand over the word to Matter if you want to take over the screen, unmute, and see if the AV works for you. Is it picture, no slides? Slides, no picture?
Absolutely. I'm trying. Hey, guys. Just see here. So, Oliver, can you confirm that you're seeing my screen?
In a second, yes.
And are we in full screen mode?
Full screen mode, and I can hear you.
Fantastic. All right. Hey, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. We're really happy to join the program as well. My name is Emil. I'm one of the co-founders and the COO of Matter. We're a Danish FinTech that specializes in analytics and reporting on listed securities for the financial industry. And we do ESG reporting. So one of the issues that we are tackling is that there's a enormous funding gap to realize the ambitions in the SDGs. Every year, the world has been falling short more than $2.5 trillion since 2015 of just funding the ambitions of the Sustainable Development Goals. Institutional finance and the listed markets is one of the key areas where funding needs to be aligned with SDGs. Luckily, today we see that more than 1/3 of the world's professionally managed assets are managed with some degree of ESG integration. And also we see that an interest in sustainable investment options has been growing in the general population, but also particularly among millennials year on year. So there is an interest, and the financial industry is picking up and integrating ESG more and more into the decision making. However, one of the issues is that the way ESG data works today typically confuses the individual investor a little bit. So the financial industry mainly relies on various forms of fairly aggregated sustainability data when it makes its decisions, and that's why a company like British American Tobacco Company can make its way into a sustainability index like the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. The consequence of that is that individual investors, people with their pension savings, life savings in a bank or a pension fund, don't have a lot of transparency into what their money is being invested in. And on the other side of the table, the financial advisors are also struggling to actually articulate what it means to invest sustainably. And the consequence of that, in turn, is that we risk getting sustainability wrong and actually misaligning capital with the SDGs because we're not tracking the right things when we're measuring ESG today. So what we want to do in Matter is create an alternative to this. We have created an analytics and reporting system for sustainability in the financial sector that does not compress the nuances of sustainability into ratings. We're partnering with Nasdaq, amongst others, on distributing our analyses and reports to financial industry clients around the world, particularly in the European and North American region, but also slowly in the ASEAN region. Our approach to this is to basically look at the wisdom of the crowd. So we try to find the independent experts in the world who are closest to the context of the subject matter, be it an NGO that knows more about sustainable palm oil production in Indonesia than anyone else, get their data into the system, turn it into something that is readable and easy to understand, and report that in an automated fashion to clients in the financial industry. So we rely on more than 50 independent expert sources around the world, particularly from the NGO, IO space, and aggregate all of this information into comprehensive sustainability analyses. We deliver it in two main touch points. So either you can get our analyses via retail focused solutions. So that is analyses and reporting that help financial industries communicate the sustainability of an investment portfolio to their end users via the digital platform. Or you can get the analyses via in-depth tailor-made reports that particularly focus on the professional and the high net worth segment. So if we just look a little bit at the first offering, the retail reporting, we've developed a set of iframes and APIs that already some financial institutions, including pension fund and a startup, are integrating on the digital platform to actually real-time communicate how much more or less, for example, CO2, renewable energy, or potential carbon emissions from reserves underground that you can find in one portfolio compared to another. And this helps and empowers their clients and users to make more sustainable choices. If you look at the, and this can also be accessed via APIs. So you don't have to implement our iframes, you can access the information directly via APIs. We've also serviced more than 30 financial institutions with in-depth portfolio analyses, where we help understand the difference between mandates, or the difference between one portfolio and a series of indices that you want to benchmark it against, on a range of sustainability analytics. So instead of creating this aggregated ESG rating or ESG score that can be hard to understand, we're actually sort of unboxing sustainability and creating these reports that are easy to read, even for the high net worth individual segment, for example, wealth management. So these are used by ESG departments, asset managers, as well as financial advisors. In 2021, we're turning these reports into an interactive dashboard where you can upload any portfolio of listed assets. We cover equity, sovereign bonds, corporate bonds, and apply a series of different international frameworks. So SFDR reporting, TCFD reporting, get your mapping according to the SDGs, and do that on any portfolio that you choose to upload against a lot of the major indices of the world. So this is really to help you can say, slice and dice sustainability and understand the nuances of it, and really move the world away from the idea that sustainability is just one number. Asia is particularly interesting to us as a region because sustainable finance is growing faster in relative terms in the ASEAN region than anywhere else. And there's a lot of talk about the Asian region catching up much faster and actually potentially in the future taking on leadership in terms of driving the allocation of capital towards sustainable purposes forward. So obviously it's very important for us that the world of ESG data and sustainability analytics create solutions that work in Asia. And we want to learn more about the needs of particularly the banks and the funds operating and the asset managers operating in the Asian region. But it's also important that it actually works for Asians. And this is, again, where we want to stress that sustainability analytics really have to make sense for the end user, the client. So in 2030, 2 out of 3 of the world's middle class will be living in the Asian region. And already today, 4 in 10 of the global financial centers are in this region. And it's incredibly important for us to make solutions that can be understood by the Asian audience as well. So we hope to be able to collaborate with some of the partners in the program, also the UNDP, to ensure that we align not only our understanding of sustainability with updated frameworks for sustainability, but also align it with a logic of the market that makes sure that we can actually bring the users and the end clients of the financial products along and make sure that they also understand what we mean when we talk about sustainable finance. After all, if they don't get it, it will be hard to close the funding gap of $2.5 trillion every year. That's us. We are incredibly excited to be part of it and look forward to collaborating with everyone involved. Feel free to follow us on our website or reach out to me. My email is in the bottom right of this slide. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Emil, for that presentation as well. It's super exciting to be able to finally go out and say, here are the great 4 companies that's been picked for this program. And of course, it's been a mutual pick, right? These 4 companies are fast-growing companies. You have attractive products. You have an up-and-running business. So for this to make sense, it would have to be a win-win scenario again, where you also see a fit with these partners and that this is a market that's strategic for you. This is partners that you would like to work with that are leading in their markets. So we're really excited to spend the next couple months to explore, how can we support you in this context on the scaling journey, and how can both you and the partners kind of benefit from collaborating more and more closely. And as a theme, I think if you listen to these 4 seemingly different presentations, something to do with farmers, here's listed assets, here's SMEs, and here's someone in space measuring carbon, it can seem a little bit widespread, but in the end, all 4 companies are looking at, what does it mean to be sustainable? How do we articulate and verify that something is sustainable? If that's an asset, or if that's an offset, or if that's a company. It's different takes on this, where really there is no good answer out there from the incumbents or from the established sector. So this is really the frontier of how do we drive the sustainable agenda? Well, we need new innovative solutions that use new technology, new business models to solve these problems and answer these questions, and really embed sustainability everywhere within financial services. And that's, of course, is the point of this program. But at driving a sustainable agenda, of course, the financial industry should not do that alone. And we need expertise on people that have sustainability expertise, which is also what makes it so great to have UNDP as a partner of this program, who can make sure that everything is aligned, who can open up the network and really power us with their global organization. I look really much forward to working with all of these 4 companies. For anyone listening in, if you're looking for leading companies that are within FinTech and solving sustainability challenge, you don't need to look any further than these 4 companies to start with. And we're happy to connect you with them through Copenhagen FinTech as well, in case you missed any of their email addresses in the slide decks. We're going to round off now, so I would like to say thank you on behalf of Copenhagen FinTech. Thank you to the startups, thanks to the partners, and thanks to everyone listening in. And I hope to stand here next year at Singapore FinTech Festival and tell you about the amazing partnerships that has been created as part of this program. Thank you.